home has to be safe, secure, and sound. Safety obviously means no broken windows. We had one with Wendy's property this month that was a handrail on a deck. So they don't want anything that is blatantly dangerous. The VA appraiser is going to hit it. This was a deck that was, what, 2 feet off the ground, and there was no handrail there.
What is the rule, though? Is it steps or distance?
It's again, it's subjective.
Okay.
So this, like I said, this deck was 2 or 3 feet up, and there was a little section about this big with no rail on it, and the appraiser dinged us for it and wanted that rail there. Okay. So really, it's a comfort level for the appraiser. Unfinished work, so wires hanging down, things like that are an issue. They don't want to see anything that's unfinished. Security, again, that goes with broken windows, knocked down doors, anything that makes that property not a safe place where somebody could actually move in, lock their doors, and their family's safe at night, an appraiser could ding you on. Again, I know that's a very gray way of putting it, but those are the things that you want to just kind of have an eye out for. And then soundness is the other one. And soundness, I think, encompasses a lot of things. I think that this one in particular speaks to the systems of the home. So if there is a system in place, in other words, an HVAC system, if it is there, it has to work. If there's a plumbing system in your home, if it's there, and obviously you have to have plumbing for it to be a safe and secure home, but if it's there, it has to work. If there's a water heater there, it has to work. So we get a lot of these questions, well, the home's been winterized, does that stuff have to, does it have to be on? Does water have to be on? Does electricity have to be on when the appraiser's there? Yes and yes. It absolutely does, because the appraiser wants to make sure that that's a sound home, that all the items that are there work. We run into that a lot with some of these homes that are in areas where there's a lot of theft for the copper or for HVAC units on the outside. They get stolen a lot, and they'll say for a foreclosure, well, we don't want to put the HVAC in until 2 days before closing because we don't want it to get stolen again. Or, hey, it doesn't work. Is that okay? Can we put window units in the windows? The answer is no. If it's there and the house is supposed to have it, then it does have to work. And so those are kind of good things to know up front when you're walking through a house, or when you have a particular buyer. If they want to look at that foreclosure and it is completely as is, it may be a good idea to ask those listing agents, we got a 1% cap. How much of that is actually going to be available for that stuff? And it's good to guide your clients on that too. A lot of people nowadays also say, I want that fixer-upper because they think they're going to get a much better deal. And sometimes you can show them that fixer-upper is going to cost more to fix it up than it is to go up $10,000 in your price and have something that's complete and ready and going to pass the appraisal. So that's kind of the main thing with appraisals. The other thing that we're seeing with VA loans especially, and mainly with VA loans, is these detached buildings. Sheds, detached garages, any building that is part of the transaction that's not the house. If it is there, it's going to have to be included in the termite inspection if we're doing a VA loan. And we probably are 90% VA loans, I would say, from you guys. We leave it out of the contract sometimes, which it is rolling the dice, because if it's out of the contract, sometimes the appraiser won't mention it in his report. But if the appraiser mentions that there was a shed or a detached building there, which we're starting to see that they almost always do, even if it's left out, then it has to be included in your termite inspection. So I would recommend right up front when you're writing that contract, in the section that talks about the termite inspection, if it says any additional inspections need to be done, right in there, detached building. The issue we run into is that the seller provides the termite letter. So the termite inspection goes on before the appraisal is done. So we get that termite letter back, everything's clear, the house is clear, we're in good shape, then we get the appraisal back. Well, now we got to get this guy back out there to do the detached building. So it's better to know up front, hey, we do have an issue with the detached building. And I'll be honest, the buildings that have the most problems with termites are detached buildings, are the sheds that there's no gutters or there's no proper foundation out there. It's just a storage building. And we get clients that say, I don't care. I don't care if there's termites in the shed. I'm going to tear it down anyway. The problem is, if the appraiser puts it on there, then we got to have it included. So just something to look out for on that. And then the other thing that we're starting to see sneak up on a lot of folks, which we're noticing in Norfolk especially, so if you're in Norfolk, just beware. They've changed their flood zones very recently. Not only did they change the maps, did FEMA change who is in a flood zone, they also changed the rates for how much people are paying for flood insurance. So I've seen a lot of clients get very surprised with extremely expensive flood insurance. I'm talking $3,000 and $4,000 a year for flood insurance. Okay. Or 10. Yeah, we've seen that. We have seen it. That it can be a huge deal killer for a couple of reasons. One, they may not qualify anymore for their house And two, they may not be interested in buying that house for $200 or $300 more a month when they could buy the exact same house 2 neighborhoods over and have $200 less because they don't have that flood insurance or they have lower flood insurance. So I'm really starting to see that.
Pretty.
The view is pretty. Yep, the view is pretty. And the thing is, it's very surprising too. A lot of times we have flood zones that there's no water in sight. So it's about the elevation of the property. So it is never a bad thing to ask the listing agent, are you aware if you're in a flood zone? They don't have to disclose that to you. Am I correct saying that? They don't have to, but it can cause a lot of issues moving forward, because we're going to find out once you go under contract, we're going to do a flood certification that's going to say it's in a flood zone. The other thing is, if we find out it's in a flood zone later and we've already negotiated 3% or 4% closing cost assistance, well, in order to get the flood insurance, we have to do an elevation certificate and a survey, which can be anywhere from $300 to $500. Plus, they have to pay their first year's homeowner's insurance premium up front, just like that, not homeowners, flood, just like they would homeowners. So you're talking possibly $2,000 extra that we didn't account for up front when we negotiated that contract. So that can be a big problem. Not only is it going to be more expensive monthly, it now becomes more expensive for closing costs, and the seller has already negotiated that they're going to pay their 3 or 4%. They're not going to want to go back and pay the extra cost to help cover those. So I would highly recommend asking that. Make that part of your, when you talk to that listing agent, make that part of the list of questions that you're asking is, are we in a flood zone? And that's all I got.
And you don't have to be anywhere close to water in Norfolk to be
Correct.
in a flood zone.
Correct. Does anybody have specific appraisal questions? I know I said it's kind of gray. Any scenarios